Hi, welcome to Nick Davies Psychotherapy, Hypnotherapy, NLP and Life Coaching. So today we're going to talk about what people do when other people lie consistently, and this is a theme that's going on at the moment with, if you live in the UK, with our government, but also you'll see it around lots and lots of places where people consistently lie. Now, a couple of reasons for this. I mean, what we know is that people with narcissistic personality disorder, psychopaths, sociopaths, this is part of their character anyway. This is part of what they do to maintain this, and I call it an inflated ego. It's not a big ego because it's not anything powerful, but an inflated ego is when you're like a balloon. You blow yourself up, but mostly it's full of hot air. Most narcissists rely on an image, an exterior image. It's to do with the way they look, it's to do with the power, it's to do with the money they earn. But when you break it down into their actual character, they're quite weak and vulnerable people. So they have this inflated ego, and in order to keep that inflated ego alive, they have to lie a lot of the time, because behind this inflated ego is their shadow self, which is a very vulnerable character. And this is what you get a lot of temper tantrums, anger, sadness, screaming and shouting from people with this. So I'm not going to go into those. There's another couple of videos: how to spot a narcissist number 1, how to spot a narcissist number 2, if you want to find out more. This is about how human beings react when people lie consistently, as we see it going on. And so the first thing we do is, when people lie, the first thing we do is we leave it in a pending trait, so we don't know what to do with it. But when it happens again and again, what happens is our mind goes one of 3 ways. Okay, so the first way that most people do, which is what's kind of going on at the moment with, vaccines, anti-vaccines, lockdown, COVID, all the kind of things that have been going on, and people have a difference of opinion. A lot of people, what they do is that when they hear some information or what they may consider not to be true, whichever side of the argument you're on, I'm not suggesting either side, but what happens is it becomes a kind of background noise. So you hear the same thing that you believe is a lie, and it doesn't fit in with your morals and your values. So what happens is, what the brain does, it turns it down and it becomes like a background noise, and then we tend to ignore it and we go into more of the flight response. So this is what I tend to do with a lot of media stuff. I don't watch the news. I don't tend not to watch stuff on my phones that crop up. It's very hard to dodge it now and again. I feel like I'm in a game, just kind of trying to get out of the way of all these things. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't affect my life. All I do is I look at, what are the health and safety things that I need to do, like, hand gel for my clients, wiping down surfaces and things like that, disinfecting. I just need to know the basics. What are the laws that I have to kind of abide by to do my job professionally and efficiently, and with integrity. So they're the things I study. Everything else is just noise. I try and focus on watching films and sport. That's what I do for social. So the first thing that people do is, and this is the flight response. What we do is we try and avoid it. So we're literally avoiding those things that come out, those people who, we've all got that friend who, if you're old enough to remember the kids program, Jack and Ori, I want to tell you a story. I have a few friends of mine. We used to have a friend that we used to call Jack and Ori because they tell so many untrue stories again and again. So that's the flight response. You avoid their communication, you avoid their company and things like that. So that's the flight response, which a lot of people do, and that's why currently you've got this, with Brexit as well. This is why in society we just have these 2 sides that are polar apart, and same in politics. You've got the hard left, hard right, Brexit on one side, Brexit on the other side, COVID, anti-vaccine, all that kind of stuff. So you have these 2 things, because the people in the middle are the ones that got the flight response, kind of ignore it, and they may be on one side or the other. And I think that was the thing with Brexit that was such a shock for old Dave, the Tory MP, our Prime Minister at the time, was shocked by the Brexit result, because what a lot of intelligent people do now is they tend to stay silent. They don't go on social media, so you don't know which side they're on. The same thing with the Canadian truckers. The Canadian Prime Minister has been shocked, and we're going to go into his you know, how he deals with the truth and lies and things like that, and you know, what a change he's made in terms of his character, because he shocked all these Canadian truckers and people coming out in support of, you know, not wanting vaccine mandate. It's nothing to do with the vaccine, it's to do with vaccine mandates and you know, making things law where, and it goes against the constitution of forcing people to have untested, and they are untested because you have to have a period of 10 years to basically look back on the research and how it affects people. And the problem is drug companies are paying to suppress that information, so you can't say, you know, it's all tried. Anyway, you know, that's just my opinion based on facts. So anyway, the other thing is and this was a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Talking to Strangers. Really, really good book. And the second thing that happens is, as human beings, we're programmed to believe that people in positions of power, authority, status wouldn't do anything wrong. You know, we like to see the good in people, and generally that's how most human beings are programmed. So in our minds we go, surely that wouldn't happen. There's a really good paragraph about the paedophile doctor in the American, I think it was the gymnastic team, who was abusing, I mean, over a long period of time, abusing lots and lots of young girls. And he was doing it while the parents were in the room, and there was a screen, and parents were saying afterwards they didn't want to believe it, because this guy was supposed to be amazing at, you know, physio or, you know, his GP stuff and this, that and the other. They didn't want to believe it, what it was. And also the victims, kind of in their brains, they didn't want to believe it, so they were kind of pretending it didn't happen, but it happened so frequently. And these poor young girls were, I mean, it's just terrific. But I mean, I really recommend you get the book, because he can articulate it a lot better than me. But generally what happens, he was saying that our brains disbelieve, so this is why, you know, we have politicians lying all over the world. But there's part of our minds that go, well, hang on a minute, they're a politician, they should be looking after us, that's what we voted them in for, that's why we paid them taxes to use in our favours. So our minds suddenly say, well, no. And this is where people use what we call cognitive dissonance, is where even when you're faced with evidence that is contrary to your beliefs, you still maintain your beliefs, because it fits in with your narrative that you say all people with power are good, all politicians are good, and this, that and the other. So this is what we call the appease response, where you try and make friends with those powerful people and you go along with what they say. And this is what's happening on one side of the coin. And this was the bit with, you know, I mean, I really recommend you read it, because it goes through lots of cases. I can't remember the guy's name, paedophile in the American gymnast thing, but obviously a horrible man. And when all these people came out, you go through the mindset of these people, not just the kids but the parents. It's horrific. It really is. You know, it's awful. And these parents, I mean, I feel sorry for everybody involved, but the parents feel so much guilt afterwards, because they were saying, well, we sent our children back because we believe, because it was the American Olympic Association, this guy's a doctor with all his credentials, that they kind of used cognitive dissonance to go along with it. And this is what you know, when you get to the end of the book, it actually says that, you know, in terms of survival and things like that, actually it's worth, and this is not a great thing for all life, because it will hinder and inhibit your ability to make friends. And this is what I realised is, as you get older, when you're in your teens and 20s, you basically see the good in people because you have wide social circles, lots and lots of friends, this, that and the other. As you get older, you know, in life, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, people become more sceptical about people and see through people. It's been a blessing in my job to be able to see through things, to see what they really are, especially with reading body language and writing for the national newspapers about this, and the Express and the Sun, about reading the body language of the royal family, and also, you know, documentaries and things like that they've asked me to do. So the other side is where you get the fight response, and it's less popular nowadays because we've, as a kind of culture across the world, we've tried to reduce violence and aggression and things like that as much as we can. But however, there's another book called 48 Laws of Power, where as you look into that, it's one of the things where you topple kings and queens and politics and power structures was throughout history, is when they became corrupt or inept. So they either were stealing loads of money, using it for themselves, or they were just so terrible, is you had riots and they overthrew the powers. And this is why I think there's a lot of mandates in there now, excuse me, to stop people doing this, because, you know, quiet political rallies, you need, like the Canadian truckers are doing, you need a massive amount of people to do that for them to take notice, because normally they just ignore it, and they've got the support of the media companies who don't even report on it, which is a shame. So the third response is where you stand up against it and fight. This is the fight response, where you say, actually, no, this person's lying, I'm going to fight against this. However, what narcissists do, and this is, there are several ways of ruining somebody's argument. In fact, I've got a note of them here. So and we call them signs, SIGN. So what they do is they weaponize things like they'll fill you with shame. How dare you? You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a this. You're a transphobe. Or you're when that may not be true at all. They will insult you about your appearance, things like that, the way you look, to make you feel more shame. Guilt. They'll make you. They'll weaponize that so that you feel guilty about your behaviour and try and infer that what you're doing is harming people, or actually it isn't. And then the fourth thing is the need to be right. The person arguing with, we need to be right. And you see all these things in politics where, Trudeau was saying about, it's a fringe minority having unacceptable views. It's crazy to say you can't have a view to say that you disagree with mandates. When did the art of discussion become censored? Our generations, my father's and grandfather's and great-grandfather's generations and yours fought for freedom of speech, but it appears that, we seem to be living a little bit more like China, where people get censored for their opinions on things. It's crazy. Why should an opinion matter? Especially in the UK, is we're all about discussion, grab a cup of tea and let's discuss, let's discuss what's going on. And it's by discussion that, and this is the problem, is people don't look at the raw data, the raw data from the results of what's going on with things. And that's what you need to discuss, not somebody's interpretation of raw data. Because the other thing is, as well, is most doctors, politicians, and especially media, journalists, aren't trained to interpret statistics. So, I studied statistics at A-level. It's a complex subject, and it teaches you how to extrapolate the data in a way where your personality and your opinions don't matter. It's just, this is what it is, and this means this, and that's what we need to get back to. So they're the three things that people have. So we get the flight response, where people lie and lie and lie, it just becomes background noise. We get the appease response, where you agree with the people that are lying because, unconsciously you want to seek friendship with them, and use cognitive dissonance, because you go, surely they wouldn't lie, so you become a kind of cheerleader for them. And the third thing is the fight response, where you stand up against it and fight for your truth. I hope you found that helpful. Love your comments and feedback. It's a discussion. If you disagree with anything I say, happy to discuss it. That's what life's about. We have ideas, we have opinions, we extrapolate things, we take things, and discussion is what improves things, and that's what I think we need more of. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please like, subscribe and share it with anyone you think who might find it helpful. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you on the next video. Take care and stay well.